Hello, my name is Doug Leisure. I wanted to record this video to give you a demonstration of the software that I created to help small churches and other religious organizations record their donations and produce receipts for their donors at the end of the year. A little bit of background on the software. I originally created this for our small church here in Western Pennsylvania about 10 years ago. And every year I try to enhance it. So what I'll be demonstrating today is the version that I will be sending out in 2024. The software does require that you have the full version of Microsoft Excel running on a PC or a Macintosh. It will not work with the online version, so you can't use this on a Chromebook or an iPad or a smartphone. Okay. Once you see the demo, if you would like a copy, just send me an email. You'll find my email address in the description below, and I will respond to you with an email that will have the software attached. It'll have a generic name, and what you should do is copy it out of the email down to a local folder on your PC and rename it. If you look up here, I renamed it First Church, that's the name of our church, and Master Donations and Expenses. That was part of the original name that was sent to me, but I put my church name at the beginning of it. Open it up. The first thing you'll see is that you'll be prompted, do you want to enable macros? The software uses what's called VBA macros to do a lot of the background work so that you don't have to know a lot about Microsoft Excel to use this. But you do have to enable the macros. On a PC, you should only have to do that once. On a Macintosh, you'll have to do that every time you open up the software. Okay, once I send it to you and you download it, rename it, and you open it up, the first thing you want to do, come to the Donors tab. This is where you will just simply list all of your donors and assign a donor number. At our church, we use an envelope system, so therefore there was a numbered envelope to go with the person that is doing the donation. So we just matched up the envelope number with their name. If you don't have the envelope system, not a problem. Just make up a bunch of numbers, say 1 to 100, and put your donor names next to it. A lot of times in the donations, we end up with cash that was given that basically then is not associated with any person's. It's anonymous, or some people use the term loose offering. So assign a number for your loose offerings. In this case, I just generically use number 100 to go with those loose offerings. So the donor number, the name. The other important thing here is to indicate whether or not we should print a receipt for them at the end of the year. So those are the things that are required. Optionally, you can put in their address, their email address, and you could even include some other things over here if you want to add some additional information about your donors here. Once you have the donor list completed, come over to the Parameters tab. This is where I give you many parameters that allow you to customize this for your church. So one of the things we want to do is to tell it what year we are doing our receipts and our reports. Think of this as the reporting year. I'll have data in here. Once I've used it for multiple years, I'll have multiple years of data, and this parameter just simply tells us when we're building a receipt or a report, which year of data should we be pulling into those receipts or reports. The other thing you want to do is give your church name and address. We also have an option for selecting a language. When I ship it to you, it will have Spanish in it, so you can choose Spanish. And when you do, everything will be displayed now in that language. If you aren't using Spanish, I have translations already that I can send you for Portuguese and Japanese and Burmese as well. And hopefully over the coming year I'll get additional translations from people as as they use this and share it with me. The other choice you have, if you're in a dual language environment, you can also select to do both languages. So you'll see the English and the other language displayed. This is really important that you set this first, because then as you go through and you change some of the other parameters, like this one in English, we would respond yes or no. But if we're in a dual language, then we want to choose the option that for both languages, yes in both languages. And as you go down through, many of the parameters have this little drop down list, so you can choose appropriately using the drop down list. Let me switch it back just for a demonstration back to English and set this parameter then to the English yes. We also have an option here for the date format. If you're outside of the US, rather than using hour, month, day, year, you probably want to set it to the more common year, month, day. A lot of other parameters here. I'm not going to go into these in detail. You'll find all of the information about the parameters and what they do in the user guide that I send you, a 75-page user guide that will help you customize and use the software. Now, there's one important thing you will want to do here is scroll down to the donation categories. This is where you will set the names that you use for your categories or funds. What do you name them and how many do you want to use? So here you define the number that you want to use, and then here you define the names, up to 20 different categories. Now, if you're in a different country, then you'll also want to skip down here to the currency part. And here's where you define the different coins and bills, the paper bills that you use in your country and their valuation. And that'll allow you then to enter your donations, your currency in your country's currency. Once you've set these parameters up, then you'll want to come up here to the donation software. It's a menu that I added to the Excel menu, the donation software, and choose the option adjust tabs from parameters. And what it's going to do is just take all of your changes and apply those to all of the different tabs. So we'll just do that and let it run, and it's done. It takes us back to the beginning, and now we're ready for our first donation. I'm going to go ahead and save this using the Excel save option here. And tell you what, let me close this down and open it back up like you would do when you're doing a donation. Okay, so when you open it up, the first thing it will do is prompt you for the date of your donation, and it will, by default, will populate with today's date. Now I'm going to do a donation for February 11 of 2024. So I'll just modify the date and click OK, and that fills in up here in the donation date. All right, let me just drag this other Excel file out of the way. Maximize this a little bit. Okay, let's go through what it would look like to do a donation for February 11th. All right, so we get we do our collection, we get the donations, and we sit down and we start to go through them. So the first envelope we open up is for Diana Tran, and we know that her donor number is number 1. So we enter here her donor number, and when we do, it will look up from her donor number, look up her name, and populate it here in column A. So we enter the donor number, and then just look over here to verify that it's the right person, making sure we didn't accidentally type the wrong donor number. And we see that there's $75 in cash in the envelope. So we enter the cash amount here in column C, and then we come over here and we see that she wanted it distributed evenly across our 3 categories. So we'll just put $25 in each category. We open up the next one, and it's Natalie Stevenson. She's donor number 2. So I did that, and I saw that it's not Natalie because I mistyped it. Donor number 2, Natalie, yes. And she gave us $10 cash. So let me explain why this is becoming red over here after I enter the cash amount. The idea is that we have a cash amount, but we have not distributed it yet to the different categories, meaning that this row, this particular donation for Natalie, is out of balance. Things don't line up, they don't balance correctly. And so we come over here, we put in her donation categories, $5 in general, it's still out of balance, $5 in missions, and now it's back in balance. The amount she gave has been distributed correctly to the categories, and so the red goes away. All right, now we have another one from Eliana. She's donor number 3, and you'll see that I'm putting these in numerical order. They do not have to go in numerical order. The software doesn't care what order you put them in. All right, now she gave us a check of $100. And with the checks, you can optionally, you don't have to do this, but you can optionally put in the check number. Some churches like to record the check number when they receive checks, so that's an optional thing for you. And she wanted $50 in general, $25 in missions, and $25 in charity. Now we have another envelope from Emmy Shaw. She's donor number 4. Yep. Now she actually did her donation online. So her $60 donation came in through an electronic fund transfer. That's what this column is for. And she happened to use Cash App. So here we'll put in the name of her donation, her electronic fund type. It could be credit card, it could be a direct bank-to-bank transfer, it could be PayPal or Zelle or Venmo, any of those kinds of things. But you probably want to record what methodology was used to send it over. Just good, helpful information. And so Emmy wanted us to do $50 to the general fund, but she also wanted us to do $10 to the special donation we're doing for our vacation Bible school. So we enter the $10 in the specials column, and then over here we enter the name of the special. So I'm just abbreviating it, VBS for Vacation Bible School. All right. Now, in addition to that, we see that there's a lot of money just loosely in the offering plate, and so that'll go to donor 100. That's our loose offering, and that was $33 in cash. And at our church we have this rule that says just simply all of the loose monies that come in go to the general offering. So we'll put that $33 there. Now we have another envelope from Dylan Snow. Dylan has never given before. So we'll just jump over here to the donor list and we'll add Dylan. We'll make up a new number for him, Dylan Snow. And a lot of times on the checks we'll have the address, so this would be a good time to enter that. But Dylan told us, I live out of state. Please just send me an email at the end of the year and send my receipt that way. So we'll put in Dylan's email address. And we'll mark over here that we want to create a PDF version of his receipt. Now it won't, the software won't automatically take the PDF and email it to Dylan. I'll have to do that myself. Sometime in the future I'm hoping to be able to figure out how to get emails to work with all of the different email systems from within my software, but I don't have that working right now. I'm hoping to do it in the future. So right now we'll just create a PDF and I'll manually email it to Dylan at the end of the year. All right, well, let's jump back here and finish the entry for Dylan. We know now that he's number 101, and he gave us a check for $50, and he wanted that to go to the, oh, sorry, the check number. His check number was 141. Again, that's an optional thing you don't have to enter. He wanted his $50 to go to the general fund. All right, and then actually while we were counting, Diana Tran stopped back in to say, hey, she forgot that they were doing a special offering for VBS, and she gave us another $15 that she wants to go towards that. So Diana is person or donor number 1. She gave us $15 in cash. She wants that to go to the VBS special donation that we're doing, the special offering. And then just continue on down doing it like this for all of your donations. When I send this software to you, by default it will have 20 rows in here for entering donations. If you start to run out of room, not a problem. Go back to the donations software, my menu, and click on this item right here to insert additional rows in this entry area. You have parameters that allow you to tell it how many rows by default you want there every time you start, and how many you want to insert if you start running out of room. Again, when I send it to you, it'll have 20 rows in here, and it will insert an additional 10 rows if you start running out of room and you use this menu option. But you have control over that through the parameters. You'll notice that these cells are yellow, and that's to indicate that these are the places where you are allowed to type information or data into these. All the other things are locked or protected, so you can't enter any information over there. And I just did that because I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cell formulas in here, and if you accidentally broke those cell formulas, you would affect how the software works. So most of the information here, most of the tabs here are protected. Okay, let's go ahead and finish this off. We're almost done here. After we do the entry here of each of the donations that we've received, we want to come down here to this portion here, and this is where we're going to try to verify that the pile of cash and checks we have in front of us match up with all of the entries we did above. So the first thing is, let's go through the cash and the coins, and we'll enter not the amounts but the quantities, right? So if we have 4 quarters, don't put $1 in here, put the quantity 4 quarters, right? And then we have 2 ones, we have 1 5, we have 1 10, we have 2 20s, and we have 2 50s. And we see that we are out of balance. Right, go back and count them again. We actually have okay, we have a problem, and I see what the problem is. We have this other envelope from Natalie Stevenson. Yes, Natalie was out sick last week, so she actually ended up giving us 2 envelopes this week, and we failed to record. We have the cash, but we failed to enter her envelope information here. So she's donor number 2, and she gave us $25 in cash, and she wanted that to go to $10 to the general, 5 to missions, and 5 to charity. Sorry, 10 to charity. Yes, make sure I read the envelopes correctly, right? Okay, the red went away because now it's in balance. We come down here, and yes, now the cash amount that we have here in total matches what we did above. And that's what the red is about, to try to tell you, check your check it out again because something is out of balance here. In a very similar way, we want to balance the checks. So we come down here, and here you enter the check, not the numbers, the check amounts. So we look at it, we see that we have a check for $100 and we have a check for $50. We enter those amounts and it confirms that everything is in balance. Just like above, if you have lots and lots of checks and you don't have enough room here, in the donation software menu, there's this menu item right here that will insert additional rows here for you to enter the check amounts here, these check details. It'll insert additional rows here for you. All right, so once both items are in balance, now we're ready to finalize everything. The first thing before I do that, I'll just take you down here to the bottom and show you the information we have here. It tells us that we have $60 that came in through electronic funds. That money's already in the bank. Okay, so we're not going to deposit that, it's already there. But we will be depositing $308. And up here it details out for us what that cash and check amount is. And I think of this as the information we put on our bank deposit slip. This is the detail for that. In addition, it gives us the summary of how much money came in for this week's donation in total to the general missions, the charity, our different funds that we use. Also, we have $25 that came into specials. Now, when you complete this and you print the information, one of the steps it'll do is to refresh the information related to the specials. And let me just show that to you. I have a menu option to make that happen manually. And when I do that, what it does is down here it'll show me one of the specials that we did this week was for VBS. The total amount that came in was $25. And what that does is it allows us to actually run more than one special at the same time. So if we had two specials, then it would have two specials listed down here and their total amounts. So it just gives us a more information related to our specials rather than just this total up here. Okay, now that we're done with everything, we just come up here and within the donation software we choose Entry is Complete. When we do that, it goes through some steps in the background. One of the things it does is it saves a copy of that week's donation information, both the detail and the summary, into a separate Excel file, kind of as a little backup. And then it will ask the question, do you want to print this donation information? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And it's asking, do I want to open the printer dialog box? When I print this, I'm going to say yes because I want to be able to do a preview and show you what it looks like when you print. So as I said, it's going to print the detail information. Let me zoom in a little bit. So a list of the donation date, each of the people, and the amounts that they gave, all the details that you entered above. The second thing it's going to do is going to print a second page, and this will be the summary information. So your bank deposit information followed by the totals down here at the bottom. And for our church, our treasurer is the one that actually takes the donations to the bank. So this is really important for him to have this bank deposit information and then these totals. At our church, our treasurer actually uses QuickBooks, and that software works really well for him. All he has to enter are just these donation categories and the total amounts for each week. Okay, and then when it's done, it just tells you exactly where it's saved, that little backup copy that I mentioned. All right. So In the background, the other thing it did is it also then took the information, the details that we entered, and it moved it over to this annual tab. Here's all of our donation information for February 11th. This annual tab really ends up being like a database of all of our donation information, and it'll span across multiple years. When we create a receipt for our donors, or we're creating our reports, it looks at this information, all of this data, and creates the reports or receipts from that. Let me show you what the receipts look like real quick. Church name and date at the top, and here is a display of what this person donated for our year 2024, and each of the months, each of the categories, and the totals. One of the parameters allows you to switch this from a monthly display to a weekly display, or even one that'll show additional details. Again, check out the user guide for more information on that and exactly what those look like. In addition to our receipts that we do at the end of the year, every month we produce a report that we give to our governing board, and this is what that would look like. So again, the months, the different categories, the total amounts that came in to each of those different categories, and down here this total becomes your year-to-date amounts. And then we also then have our special offerings displayed down here, and it'll be the name of the special and the total that has come in for the year so far for that particular special offering. As you use this for multiple years, we'll also build a 5-year comparison so that you can look back over the last 5 years and see how your donations are doing compared to prior years. About 5 years ago, I had one of the churches contact me and said, "Hey, we're a pretty small church. We really just have one guy, our treasurer, that he does the donations, he produces the receipts, but he also has to take care of those expenses. Can you please do something to help us track our expenses?" So I went ahead and added some additional functionality to the software, allowing you to enter and track your expenses as well as your donations. Now, I have two different versions of the software, one that does the donations only. So if you're like our church and that's all you really need, just request the donations only when you email me. If you want to track both the donations and the expenses and produce a report that shows your income and expense, then you'll want the one that does donations and expenses. Let me show you a little bit about how the expense tracking works. First of all, one of the parameters that I have determines whether or not you want the donations, which would be a bank deposit, to be automatically recorded here for you. If you use that option, then you don't have to enter donations, you just have to enter expenses. Unless, of course, your church does have some other sources of income, perhaps interest from a bank or something, or other sources. So basically, we just enter here then information about whether it's a deposit or expenditures, and if it's an expenditure, you're probably going to do it through a checkbook. So enter the check number. If you do it through an online payment, just put in the word online. If you use a debit card or credit card, enter that here. Then you do the date, and then you would enter the category or subcategory. Now, it's optional whether or not you want to do both categories and subcategories or just categories. That's totally up to you. But if you're doing the category and subcategory, let me explain what that would look like. The category, so that we can see a total for building maintenance, we'd put building maintenance as a category. But then each bill, we would detail that out as a subcategory: telephone, gas, rent, electricity, water, so that we would see how much was given for the telephone for each month, but then we will also summarize that and show the total for all of building maintenance. So that's kind of the idea of a category and subcategory. From this information, we then build a, um, a report, and this is using Excel pivot tables to build this. Income on top, expenses on the bottom. We do the income as positive, the expenses as negative, and that way when you look at the bottom, it's not really a grand total. This is really a net. So for January, we had more income than expense, so our net is a positive $4,000. Okay, and it does that for every month and gives us a grand total for the sum of all of the months so far. One of the things I like about Excel's pivot table, as we add new information to the expense entry part, the report will automatically add additional columns. So for us, that would be additional months or additional rows, so new categories or subcategories. Let me go through that. I'll just add a couple of things to it so you can see what I'm talking about. So let's come back here to the expenses, and let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and enter some expenses. Let's go here just to the bottom. So the first blank area, you come here, and this is where you start typing. So check number, this is going to be check number 496, and this will be on May 1st. And this is going to be our building maintenance, and as I start typing, it looks up above and it matches things that begin with the letters I've typed, so I don't have to enter the whole thing. Just hit the tab to allow it to enter what it found. Saves on the typing. And then we're going to do our telephone expense. That is an expense, so we'll put it in the payment column, and that was $50 for the telephone bill. Okay, don't put anything in the blue because remember we fill in the yellow cells only. So let's come down and do another one. Check number 497, also on 5/1, and this was also our building expense, or sorry, our building maintenance, and this is our gas, and that was $41.67 for that bill. Okay, that will show you what it's going to look like because we added in a new month. Let's add another category and see what that looks like. So let's do one more. Check number 498, and this was actually done back, it is check number 495. I just had failed to enter it back in April. And this was Christian education. And the subcategory was Sunday school. And the amount. Okay, so now we have the missing check, but it also represents a new category, and we have some other checks that represent a new month. So we'll come over here, and the one thing that kind of disappoints me about Microsoft Excel is that when the source data is updated, the pivot table does not automatically update itself. So we have to go through just a small process to tell Excel that we want it to refresh this data, read the source data, and add any new rows or columns and summarize everything up. So I've given you, under the donation software, I've given you a menu to do that, and it's called Refresh the Expense Report. So when you click on that, it'll read the data and update everything. We can see now that we have a new month in here, so it added that column automatically. And we also have a new Christian education Sunday school category and subcategory, and these rows were added automatically. So building the report is pretty simple. I give you an option here as well to print this report. Let's jump back here for one final thing. The other thing we're doing related to the expenses is we're doing things to help you keep things balanced. So up here we have at the top the opening balance for year 2024. So we should be able to get this then from our bank statement. What is the opening balance at the beginning of the year? And then we add up all of the deposits, and we're going to add that to the opening balance. We're going to subtract all the payments for the year and come up with a new balance for the year. That's nice and that's very helpful. However, anyone who's worked with checkbooks at all realize that a lot of times we have information listed here in our records that don't yet appear on the bank's records, on the bank statement. So we have a column here where you can come down and you can just, for those things that are on our records but are missing on the bank statement, we can mark those to say yes, they are missing. So let's just take these last three and say yes, they are missing on our bank statement. Okay, and tell you what, while we're here, let's do this other miscellaneous income from 428. Let's mark that one also, that it's missing on our bank statement. Okay, so now we have our current balance based on the information we've recorded, but we also then adjust that. That is, adding the payments back in and subtracting the missing deposits so that we can calculate our bank statement balance. So this number now should match what's in my bank statement. So just a little tool we put in here to help you keep this record balanced with your checking account and your bank statements. Okay, that is everything that I wanted to show you about the software. The donations, creating receipts at the end of the year for your donors, making some reports that you can give to your board of trustee, or sorry, your governing board once a month, as well as a way to track your expenses and produce a income and expense type of a report. Again, you'll find my email address down in the descriptions below. You'll find my email address. If you're interested in a copy, just send me an email and I'll respond to you and send you a copy. Tell me which one you want, donations only or donations and expense. And my name is Doug Leisure, and thank you for the opportunity to demonstrate the software for you.